I'm going to read the resolution. In American public high schools, students' right to choose what fiction or non-fiction books they read ought to be valued over community requests for censorship. We affirm this resolution. Students' right to choose what they read is important because they have the right to know what's going on around them. As president of the American Library Association, Molly Raphael says, such censorships, in fact, a very big deal, such censorship matters to those who no longer can exercise the right to choose what they read for themselves. It matters to those in the community that cannot afford books or a computer. And it matters to all of us who care about protecting our rights and our freedoms and who believe that no one should be able to forbid others in their community from reading a book, because that book doesn't comport with their views, opinions, or morality, unquote. Let's remember that public high school libraries are for all the people in the community, and that every community embraces a tapestry of beliefs, lifestyles, and values, from gay to straight, from liberal to conservative, rich and poor, and everywhere in between.
Definitions. 1. Fiction, a literary work based on the imagination and not necessarily on fact. Definition 2. Public high schools, a post-secondary school in the U.S. supported by public funds and providing free education for teenagers or a community or district. Definition 3. Nonfiction, prose writing that is not fictional. Censorship. Censorship is the examination, supervision, and/or control of information and ideas within access of the general public. It can refer to written, visual, and auditory materials. Censorship may also include the restriction, alteration, removal, and/or withholding of materials. The concept is closely related to the freedom of speech, human rights, and repression. Government withholding of information for the purpose of national security is usually not considered censorship because censorship entitles unnecessary, inappropriate, or oppressive concealment. These are our values. First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, of the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Freedom of speech, the right to openly discuss any topic you want in public without the fear of being arrested and imprisoned for it.
Claim 1. Various topics are difficult for teenagers to learn about when a book becomes censored. Books that have been censored are The Kite Runner, The Catcher in the Rye, and The Huckleberry Finn. Students get to experience more of the human life as well as finding themselves in a place where these young adults can actually find themselves. It's a time capsule that aids in understanding the hostile environment of America during the racial segregation. So, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is a novel that is powerful and representative of America in the late 19th century. It is the only remaining novel to treat slavery, to represent black dialect, and to have a significant vote for African Americans. A teacher from Connecticut says that it's an example of how, like, African Americans and their segregation, how it was back then. Like, we need to understand how it was.
Claim 2. In order to survive in society, students must not be restricted from diverse knowledge and ideas. Books have the power to enhance and strengthen knowledge. Barbara Spindle, a researcher for Attacks on the Freedom to Learn, says, students are being denied the resources to develop the critical thinking skills necessary to participate and to succeed in an increasingly complex society. We agree with this quote because we live in an ever-changing society where one must be able to adapt to new ideas that they must cope with, though they might disagree. High school is a time when students are to be prepared to thrive in an ever-changing society. Books are printed materials where instances of different ideologies are put to effect, and knowledge of such instances will help students understand what they will face in their daily lives. Therefore, we concur that a student's right to what they read is important because they have the right to know what is going on around them, knowing that knowledge is necessary to be able to deal with society and books are critical resources of such knowledge.
Claim 3. Freedom of speech is compromised where students have the right to know. If based on religious beliefs, explicit contents, and languages, a parent or a child may feel the book should be banned. But do you really think a book should become censored because of one person's belief? This is the right being taken away from the rest of the students or the community. Dennis, our librarian, explains that each student has the right to speak with a teacher if he or she feels uncomfortable with a certain book. Ain Thames, who is also a librarian, says that our teachers and the librarians are hired because of their professionality. They know what they are dealing with. Other books like bomb makings and confidential government books should also be allowed because students should be able to experiment together in a group project for school purposes. With government books, students should know that there are consequences if they choose to do their own choices. Quote, without free speech, no search for truth is possible. No discovery of truth is useful, unquote, by Charles Bradlaugh.
Therefore, we affirm the resolution.
All right. Negative 18, do you want your minute of prep time for cross X?
I'm ready.
Ready to go? All right, so all teams to the podium, this is cross X.
Cross X time, folks.
Can we start now?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so according to one of your claims in your constructive argument, you claim that books help the positive development under students. With this claim, do you think that books that contain sexually explicit content, profanity, and violence will help build a positive character and positive development and beneficial to the learning process?
Yes, we actually do think that it's going to be beneficial to us because if students don't feel comfortable with reading the book, or if their parents don't feel comfortable with them, they can either say or ask the teacher that they don't feel comfortable and they don't have to read it.
But my question is, how does that kind of material help the development and beneficial opportunities for students? How does it help? In what ways? That's my question.
In ways like in sexual content, you're learning about, you're in high school, so you're learning about sex related
If you're reading about
books.
a woman getting raped, then that's helping you learn about sexual instances.
How does it help the learning process? Because according to one of your definitions of school, it's a place, of course, where we learn and help the positivity development of kids. How does that kind of content help the upbringing of students?
It helps. It helps by So, well, basically, it's gonna help our learning, like understand in a better way, and as an example, as us learning it by ourselves. If we have a book and we check it out by ourselves, how are we gonna learn? How are we gonna learn from that process?
So, from the material in these books, are they going to directly help me learn in school and reach the requirements that I need to graduate or to finish or to go on to the next post-secondary education?
Yes, you do, because there's a lot of these books that have been banned. A lot of them contain like important information that you might need in the future.
Like
And
what kind of books?
For example, like the bomb makings. What if you want to like research about doing those things and go into Raytheon about that?
So you're saying that classified information from Raytheon should be offered to students who are willing to learn more about,
It can.
and what kind of content,
Just
what kind
like-
of books?
Just like how nurses give us their information, or the police officers, they
But
release.
can you not, after high school, go to college and learn about building bombs so you can go into Raytheon or any job like that?
Yes, you can, but
So why does it need to be here in high school?
because there's programs that are offered for you to be like learning before college so you can get ahead in college.
Do
What
you
if there's
think-
students that are like that?
Do you think that offering confidential information on how to make bombs can be dangerous for students who are under the age of 18 who are not mature to handle that kind of information?
What are you gonna say? Can we answer?
Sure.
Well, there's consequences for those students, or there's those students. They're high school students, so they should know the consequences after that. So,
That's all, thank you.
You guys want your 2 minutes of
Oh, 1 minute.
Zach Felipe posted a picture of Facebook.
How much time do you have left, Miss?
7 seconds.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Tell me when you're ready.
Alright, so this is your 7-minute instructive and then also your rebuttal speech.
Okay.
Alright, time starting now.
Okay. Resolved. In American public high schools, students' right to choose which fiction or non-fiction books they read ought to be valued of community request for censorship. We, however, negate this resolution. Book censorship among American public high schools should be considered to some extent in order to ensure the value of providing the safe, positive, and educational upbringing for students. Have you ever read a book that ever made you feel so connected to it, to the story or content? Has a book ever made you smile, cry, or upset? That is the power of literature. Literature can play a strong role on the way we feel or think. However, it can have both a negative and positive influence on our mind. So, when we talk about book censorship, what exactly is it? Well, according to the American Library Association, book censorship is the act of taking out offensive and inappropriate material from a school curriculum or any other type of institution that involves literature. Definition 2. School, or public high school, is the organization or institution that provides instruction for students. The goal for fulfilling a positive school environment is to establish a positive and instructional curriculum for students who are still developing a mind that are under the age of 18. Definition 3. So what does it mean when we talk about community? Well, community consists of parents, teachers, and school administration.
Claim 1, school environment. Banning some books should be necessary to ensure the value of providing a positive and educational upbringing for students. We ask ourselves, why do we ban books? But it's not we, it's the community. According to American Library Association, books are banned in some public high schools because of racially offensive, sexually explicit, and violent materials. According to Melissa Kelly, who is a secondary educator with Masters in Education for Instruction and Curriculum, states, what you teach in the curriculum will have a direct effect on the classroom. So you have to ask, what are the educational goals, objectives, and does a certain book achieve them? Is the book relevant to the curriculum standards of learning and program of instruction? In the environment of a public high school, the materials that are allowed into the school should pertain solely to the learning process. Ask a student, parent, school district administrator, or state school official the purpose of high school, and by far the most common response is that the mission of high school is to prepare the students for post-secondary education.
Claim 2. Literature censorship should be permissible with the overview of the parents and communities. Statistics show, according to University of New Mexico, 86% of the general public believes that parental involvement and the community involvement as well is the most important way to improve education. Decades of research show that when parents are involved and the community are involved, and the child maintains high grades, better attendance, lower rates, and suspension. This is one of the reasons why we want parents in the community's involvement, especially what goes into our curriculum, which books is, of course, one of the curriculum ideas. All right, bad or inappropriate is not for us to determine. Bad is what the parent may deem bad for the child. What each parent determines as bad varies and depends on the unique situation, family, and values.
Claim 3, psychological influence. So what about the effects of reading on the individual? These things are not very well recognized, but the most important research program on such effects have been conducted by Keith Stanovich, Richard West, and their colleagues. Books can have a profound influence on the mind, and our brain can be easily deceived. Richard F. West says, even very bright people are susceptible to cognitive illusions and biases that can hinder good judgment and decision-making. So what happens if you project your mind